3, 2, 1.
From the news, this is Channel 9 News. With Rolland Smith, Lloyd Lindsay-Young weather, and Russ Salzberg sports.
Good evening, everyone. We all love Lucy, and tonight America is pulling for her. The 77-year-old comedian suffered an apparent heart attack in Los Angeles this afternoon. She's undergone surgery tonight, and doctors say Lucille Ball is in very serious condition. Lucy started her career in the movies in the 1930s, but it was I Love Lucy that made her a household name. A series of wacky antics between Lucy and her husband, Desi Arnaz, was one of the most popular TV shows of all time and is still broadcast in nearly 80 countries worldwide. Its long-running success never ceased to amaze the red-headed queen of comedy.
The whole thing was a fluke, and we expected it to last within the year, just a few episodes of something we knew nothing about. No one knew anything about television.
Well, Lucille Ball didn't need to know anything about television. What she knows is how to make people laugh. But life was not all comedy. Lucy and Desi divorced in 1960. 2 years later, she was back with Classic Lucy on her own show, which enjoyed another long run. She remarried in the early 60s to Gary Morton, who was with her today when she was checked into the hospital. Doctors say that Lucy was conscious and complaining of chest pains.
She was wheelchaired in. She was obviously very uncomfortable. She had been experiencing chest pains, and they moved her upstairs from the emergency room into the cardiac catheterization lab, and from there directly into surgery.
Well, Lucy is at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, and we now go live to reporter Jim Murphy, who has the latest on Lucille Ball's condition. Go ahead, Jim.
Indeed, Roland, and the latest is that Lucy is still up in the Cedars-Sinai Towers, still undergoing surgery. It has now been going on for 3 hours. Just moments ago, I spoke with a hospital spokesman who said they anticipated the surgery would continue even another hour, and only when it is completed will they give us an update on her condition. All they're saying now is that the surgery is continuing. Interestingly, it took about 2 hours from the time that Lucy actually entered the hospital until the surgery began. I asked this spokesman if that time delay meant this was not a particular emergency heart operation. And the spokesman said, no, indeed, it was a very grave emergency and classified it as a major heart attack. So at this point, the surgery continues. We have no word since Lucy entered the hospital, and the word you just had on the air as to what her condition is as the surgery continues. We'll have to wait until it is finished, and they estimate it will not be finished for at least another hour. Roland?
Jim, we know that, I guess, back in May of last year, Lucy suffered a small heart attack. Now, is this operation tonight, right now, is this open heart or bypass surgery?
We don't know that. They will not even classify it as that. They are calling it cardiac surgery. One can only assume, and this is always dangerous for a layman, that it is most likely open heart bypass surgery.
Were her daughter, her son, or her husband with her that you could see?
Well, indeed, Gary Morton, her husband, did bring her into the hospital. However, the rest of her family members, no one seems to have caught any sight of. We don't know where they are, and they've not been able to be contacted.
All right, Jim, we'll try to get back to you a little later. I know they've got scheduled a news conference as soon as they can to let America know, and the world know for that matter, what's going on. And if you're free, we'd like to get back to you a little later on in this broadcast.
Well, indeed, Roland, one other note. The world is very anxious. This same hospital spokesman told me that as soon as the word went out to the public at large that Lucy was here in the hospital, the phones started ringing off the hook with calls from around the world, fans wanting to send flowers, fans asking about her condition. Indeed, almost 40 years after I Love Lucy first hit the screen, Lucy is still loved.
Thank you. Jim Murphy of KHJ-TV in Los Angeles. We'll check back with you later. On to other news now. The man who took America by storm took his own life. 60s activist Abbie Hoffman died of a drug overdose. Rob Bell reports on the coroner's conclusion.
The death is ruled a suicide. Abbie Hoffman died from the combined effects of the phenobarbital and alcohol.
Despite the coroner's announcement, friends and family doubt that Hoffman's death was suicide.
He was always somewhat careless with pills, and we always warned him about this kind of thing. I will never believe for my entire lifetime, and I don't believe that Johanna will ever believe suicide was involved.
It seems really puzzling to me that it took these people a week to find out that he had that quantity of substance in his body. I just find that really hard to believe.
Tonight, 2 men watched over the rambling Pennsylvania home where Hoffman's body was discovered, fully dressed in his bed last Wednesday night. His family and friends have all gathered in Hoffman's hometown, Worcester, Massachusetts, for a memorial service tomorrow. The rebellious founder of the Yippie movement and an outspoken opponent of the Vietnam War, he stood trial in 1968 as one of the Chicago Seven, charged with inciting bloody riot at that year's Democratic National Convention. Later years found him a college lecturer, book author, and environmentalist. And so the final chapter, the death of Abbie Hoffman, has at last been told. But those who knew him best will always remember the Abbie Hoffman who loved life. In Solbury Township, Pennsylvania, Rob Bell, Channel 9 News.